because that's unusual, right? There aren't many 13-year-olds that say, hey, I've started a business and I was able to get hired
Absolutely.
by Microsoft. So
Yeah. Hi, I'm Bob Stein, and you can't make this shit up.
All right, Bob, welcome to the You Can't Make This Shit Up podcast.
Great title.
Yeah, thank you.
We worked
and
hard on
we
it.
bleeped that out, too. I'm Josh Roberts, co-host
Tim Tannert.
Tim Tannert. We're happy to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
The goal really is to talk about kind of leadership lessons, failures, and lessons learned from these crazy stories that we have, these You Can't Make Shit Up stories. So welcome.
Full disclosure, I'm still learning.
Yeah,
Absolutely. We are all on that journey together. So
maybe give us a little bit of background on your story.
All right. So I'm currently the executive director and the associate vice chancellor of the Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence at the University of Pittsburgh. It's a mouthful, I know.
It is, yeah.
But our organization supports businesses and entrepreneurs of all sizes in Western Pennsylvania, over 1,500 businesses a year, including yours.
Yes.
And we provide education, consulting, networking, and I've been at Pitt for about 20 years now. Prior to that, I have had my own business, which was the online publication for Microsoft products that I started when I was 13. And then I also was in my family's business, which is in the coal industry.
Yeah. So how did you make that transition to Pitt?
So if I'm going in reverse now.
Yeah.
So I started, what does a 13-year-old like to do as you were just saying your daughter does? We like to play games.
Yep.
So I ran the gaming area of America Online. And then what does Microsoft do when they come onto market? They poach all of the people from their competitor.
Right.
So they did that without verifying my age. And so I ran some of the gaming area on Microsoft Network, it was called. And then I started covering the Microsoft games, and then eventually it turned into all of their products. And so my IT background. So long story short, then I started consulting with our IE clients on their IT needs. That's how I got my foot in the door.
This
Very
is starting
cool.
to come together now. I'm starting to make some connections here.
Absolutely. And so when you think way back at that, 13 years old,
13 years old,
trying to put all this together, what was the driver? Like, because that's unusual, right? There aren't many 13-year-olds that say, hey, I've started a business and I was able to get hired
Absolutely.
by Microsoft. So
yeah.
What was the driver? What were you thinking? What was the motivation?
Wish I had a sexy answer to tell you,
Yeah.
but I was just a 13-year-old playing games. I come from an entrepreneurial family. I come from family business, so I always had a great role model. My father, watching him, do his business. So I got I had a kind of idea of it, but you just start doing one thing, you do it well, and then people ask you to do something else, you do it, well, and then one thing leads to another. It's pretty amazing.
So were you getting some coaching along the way?
I would say
you're figuring out a lot of different things, right? I mean, you got to do some operations, some marketing, some sales.
I really didn't know what any of that was
Yeah,
at the age of 13. Really didn't have too much. I didn't really share the nitty gritty with anybody.
Yeah.
You like to say oh shit moments. One of the oh shit moments was, back in the 90s, you had to dial in the internet via a modem, right? You remember?
I can still remember
the
AOL.
sound.
Yep.
Yeah. And the phone bill came, and I think it was like $900 back in 1990s dollars.
Yeah.
And so that was an shit moment. That prompted that was the catalyst for conversation with my parents. What are you doing?
And you started to really understand the concept of cost of goods sold, right?
Yeah, kind of, a little bit. Yeah.
I remember having a lot of those conversations with the phone bill comes in before you could just get unlimitted minutes, right?
Right.
Man,
This was before
rough.
that at
High
the
school,
time.
college, it was all
Long
rough.
distance phone call.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And so, we were talking earlier about raising kids and the experiences as parenthood. And one of the things is we talk about it's caught than taught, right? You absorb a lot from watching your parents. And so, thinking back to your childhood, watching your father and run his business, like, is there any moments that stick out to you there that?
He was always kind enough to bring me on some of his meetings and whatnot. So he traveled internationally in India and Turkey. So I always got to go with him on those trips, and I learned a lot just observing, these offices and work environments in these other countries. So it was nice. Plus, as a kid in a family business, you always got to, run around your dad's office or sneak in after it was closed with your friends or something. So I always, Yeah.
I think about that with, we've got young kids, my daughter, and, she does that, right? She'll run around the office, write stuff on the whiteboard. And then I think even this past weekend, she had come up with this idea, curbside cuties, where she thinks her and her friends are going to take people's trash cans from, out to the curb and back on Thursday and Friday.
That's that entrepreneurial thinking.
So I'm trying to figure out how much do I, coach her on that, or just like let her, figure it out and fail and like try to figure out all these things. But I love that, that you got to kind of see that and experience that. So I'll definitely.
When I was in high school, I went in, in the middle of the night with my friends, and we watched movies in the boardroom. I mean, that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Awesome. So, I was connecting the dots earlier. I know one of the things you do here in Pittsburgh is you do you plan an event outside of IE,
yes.
right? So is that what's the name?
Yeah, so I co-own Steel City Con, which is the pop culture convention here in Pittsburgh.
So was that inspired from that
No.
that time in IT, like kind of 13, 14-year-old?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That's only because I like entrepreneurs and I'm entrepreneurial thinking and I like running businesses. So that's why.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Steel City Con is 3 times a year, and it's one of the bigger. It's the biggest one in Pennsylvania. I co-own that with my business partner Denise DeSimon, who's another entrepreneur in Pittsburgh, and we have all kind of awesome guests all throughout the year. And the next one's in April.
Okay. So what's any crazy stories coming out of that?
With the general public, there's all kind of crazy stories. I mean, it's just you see everything you could possibly imagine.
Yeah,
it's a little different audience than I'm normally working with.
That's fantastic. And so, as you've then navigated through your career, right? So you started the Microsoft, and then have now transitioned. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing at the University of Pittsburgh and how you're helping entrepreneurs reach their goals and their dreams.
So as I mentioned, our mission is economic development for these business owners. So we want, whatever we do, at the end of the day, we want to help them become more profitable, add revenue, add or save jobs, increase the amount of investment in the business, or add to the number of startups in the region. So that's everything ties back to that, no matter what we do. So if it's helping them get a loan for a new building or a new piece of equipment, or to open a new business location, anything we can do to help a business is, we just love it.
Yeah, I know in my experience, we do a lot of networking events around Pittsburgh, and I tell my team all the time, I think the IE has some of the best networking events. Those are always the ones that we mark on the calendar. Other ones, can kind of come and go, but I think you do a phenomenal job with that. It's definitely been beneficial to our business.
Thank you.
And our people love going, because it is. I mean, we just did one recently with the state of the economy at PNC, and that was just really, especially being in the staffing business. What can we expect, in the next year and beyond? And I thought you did a great job pulling together a diverse group of people, right?
Absolutely.
You got to get different sides of the political spectrum and just leadership also within Pittsburgh. It was really good.
And so what's the typical size of organizations when they start working with you?
All across the board, from people who have zero revenue to multi-billion-dollar family businesses or publicly traded companies. So we can provide something for everybody, which is really nice.
Awesome. And as you help those organizations, is there certain challenges that you think most organizations have in common, or kind of a common thread that you're seeing entrepreneurs?
Well, like in the macro environment, like during COVID, for example, everybody had issues, and with their PPP or getting emergency idle loans, so that everybody had that in common, which is probably one of our most defining moments that we could provide. Right the first day of COVID, we had a webinar with the SBA. We had over 850 businesses on that webinar. Everybody was panicking. So in that regard, yes, some industries have some things happening, and sometimes where other ones are doing healthy, or so it comes and goes. But there are all across the board, people worry about staffing issues or supply chain issues, things like that. So yeah, it's pretty. There's common threads.
Yeah, I think
everything.
We talked about the supply chain issues that happened, kind of during after COVID, were a huge issue. It looks like that's rebounded, and that's in a better place now.
Better place.
What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for I love the fact that you're connected to so many different businesses, different sizes, and I feel like you've got to see some things that maybe other people aren't seeing.
I think for 2025, people are still learning how to navigate the new administration in place, whether they supported it or not. It's still a navigation of just no one knows what to expect
every day,
and so I think that we just have to wait and see how things shake out on their plans.
Yeah, so probably for me, that's it's the little bit of uncertainty. I think people are just kind of in that wait and see, doing a little bit of planning, but not making any crazy decisions.
I noticed that it has gotten better, though.
Yeah.
Prior to the election in November, it was almost at a dead stop.
Yeah.
But now at least they know who's the president of the United States, and then so they're making progress there.
Yeah,
that's great. And the other issue that you mentioned was people. It's not shocking to us that staffing people challenges are the most pressing issues that a lot of people face, right? How do I get the right people in the right seats? How do I navigate that? Are there some specific examples or stories or thoughts that you see a lot of leaders trying to churn through?
Well, even at the State of the Economy, one of our sponsors said, who runs a accounting firm, David Wilkie, he said, any laid off IRS agents out there, we'll take them, we'll hire them. So I think a lot of the business owners are looking at these any furloughed workers and seeing if they have transferable skill sets to their businesses.
Yeah, so
I love that comment from him.
It was great.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's really thinking outside the box a little bit. Right? Like we need to start talking to some IRS people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. For me too, I think it's we're seeing a little bit of a pickup, and people I think are thinking about it more long term after the election. Even if it's not an immediate need right now, it's something that may be coming in Q2, Q3, Q4, and starting to think about how they can find the best people.
Access to capital is another one with the interest rates. Now, business owners were expecting the interest rates to trend downwards. We heard yesterday it might not be the case. So I think that's where some of the wait and see comes into play.
There's like maybe 25 basis point drop, but
4-0.
There were a lot of buts, right?
Yeah, there are buts.
But we have to wait and see. And I think that's the sense I get. I don't know what you're sensing. You also are obviously connected to a lot of leaders and businesses in Pittsburgh and beyond. What's the sense that you get for the people?
The vast majority of my clients are doing extremely well right now. That there's still a lot of optimism. There are different areas that are starting to see additional investments around technology, manufacturing, and so looking at ways to capitalize that. The one big question mark right now that all my clients seem to be talking about is tariffs and how, if anything, does that affect them. Specifically, a lot of Canadian imports that could potentially be affected. So there's always uncertainty there. But what I kind of talk about with my clients is, we can't control the wind, and a lot of these things are the wind, right? But we can control our sails. And so it's okay. There's some uncertainty there, yes, but what are the concrete actionable steps that we can take to protect ourselves, to risk mitigate, to be able to come up with different pivot points as this continues to unfold. And so, right, just kind of taking that more proactive approach as because the one constant in life is that everything changes, right? And that just is whether it's political or financial or just markets in general. Things are going to continue to change with technology, and so how do we continue to evolve and set that long-term goal and move towards that? While being able to continue to more on a quarterly basis course correct and make small changes as it needs to be done. So,
I also think they talked about this at the event. Turnover has gone down significantly relative to COVID, right? And I think that's a good sign. I think people are holding on to people.
They're valuing their job security,
and not just from the from the business side, but also from the employees. There's not as much jumping around, and they want some more stability, and so I think that's working well for both sides, and I hope that continues.
Absolutely. But for those organizations that are growing, finding that new talent is a pinch point, and so talking to organizations about how do you differentiate yourself in the talent market, right? We think so much about advertising and marketing for potential customers and clients. How do we take that same mentality to advertising for potential employees? And what are our differentiators? How can we create an environment where people are attracted to come work for us? And on the same side too, being very specific on this is the type of culture we have in our organization. I tell my clients all the time, the right core values attract the right people and repel the wrong people. And so just kind of navigating that, being able to create that employee-friendly approach, attract that talent, but also be very specific on what are the type of people that we really need for our organization.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I talk about this all the time too. It's, you can have right people, right seat, right core values, have a good vision, and you're trying to attract a top talent, and they're choosing between you and someone else that maybe doesn't even have all those things, but they do a better job of, communicating some of the things to the candidates, whether through social media or just through some of their, like you said, advertising to the candidate. And they're losing just because they're picking a logo, right, that is connecting with them, when it might not even be the best place for them. So we're always trying to get our customers to up their game in terms of how they communicate to the candidates. I think that's an important piece through, even I said video job descriptions, like and just doing some things like this that get your name out specifically for recruiting, right? And bringing in talent, not to try to increase your sales. And I do think that's an important piece. And the ones that do it well will definitely be able to get people to decide, and pick them over someone else. So I don't know if are you running into that at all in terms of, people struggling with being able to find talent and trying to get creative with how they.
It's easier than it was over the past couple of years, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. We're seeing more and more people apply for jobs.
Right.
Yeah. Even at Pitt.
I know. Yeah.
Any creative solutions that either one of you have seen, right? You talked about video job descriptions, kind of podcasts, employee facing videos or potential employee facing videos as some examples. Any other things that you see out there that's working that an organization should maybe consider?
Yeah. We'll get Bob to get on, start doing video on LinkedIn here after this. But I think the leadership team is an important piece of the puzzle. And if they can start having thought leadership on social media, I think LinkedIn is a great tool. But there are other, depending on the company and you can also get on, Instagram and TikTok and some other avenue. But putting yourself out there, there are some resources that can help you with this. But there are some people that I see in Pittsburgh and beyond that are doing a good job of this, and they'll tell me like the biggest benefit to them of with thought leadership and talking about their culture and talking about the benefits of the company is recruiting. That's where they're recruiting. I even tell a lot of people that I talk to, before you hire us, try to post something on LinkedIn, because your network, the leadership network is probably the best network for the people in their industry. So I always recommend that. I do think the video job descriptions, most people are just dealing with a paper job description, right? If you can bring that to life a little bit more, what's the day in the life of working, at IE, if you're trying to hire somebody, and do some behind the scenes. It doesn't take a lot of effort these days. I mean, a cell phone is an amazing camera. And just, you might make some mistakes and just try to learn how to be on camera, but like that definitely makes a huge difference. Those are kind of the I don't want to say the low-lying fruit that I think makes a difference and helps you. I think getting clear on your values and your vision and purpose, and those things are also important, and then projecting that, social media.
Absolutely. There was a great study that I saw about millennials entering the workforce, and it's predicted by 2030, 75% of the workforce is going to be millennials or younger.
By when?
By 2030. Oh, wow. So 5 years, right? So this is literally right around the corner, 3/4 of the workforce. And of the millennials, when surveyed, 75% of them say that values and their values connecting and being aligned with the values of their organization is required, not optional. It's not nice to have. It's required for them to accept that job. And 87% of millennials say that growth and professional development are more important than salary. So being able to incorporate those messages into that communication as well, right? And I love that you said TikTok videos, and right, how they consume information, the video, job descriptions, all of these things are, I think, critical. And what I see a lot of organizations, especially more mature organizations that have been around for a generation, or I work with some third generation companies, they have to pivot. They need to change their approach to be able to get the types of people that they're looking for. What got you there here won't get you there, right? We've got to evolve. And so some just interesting facts that
I call BS a little bit on that study, though, because I see these people and their expected salaries for entry-level jobs, and the salary is important to them.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's not, but if it's equal salaries, right? And
equal salaries,
and one has career pathing and shows a path versus the other, and when I talk to a lot of companies, they don't have formalized career pathing. They really don't. They haven't thought of it, and they haven't invested that time, energy, and effort. And I think that's critical to the message. I
would advise the young people some advice. You can't become the CEO on day one. You have to put in the time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And a CEO and the CEO's salary.
I agree. I think the younger generation can start to, they want to fast track everything.
Yeah,
right?
Everything wants to be fast tracked.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, you did, though, at 12 and 13 years old, you became CEO of your business, right?
That's right. Well, I started my own business, but when I was 21, I already had 8 years experience. So,
exactly. So that's awesome. So So as you think about talking to people entering their career, and because you've got this unique experience of working with all of these different companies, kind of seeing what their needs are, what is some of the advice that you would provide?
I mean, I put forth your best effort every day and work hard, and only good things will come. And no matter what you're doing, even on my little business, I just did it very well, and I put a lot of time into it. And then, next thing I knew, I was meeting with Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates and Meg Whitman. These are CEOs of major companies. And, here's just my little business. So, but that all comes with hard work and persistence and being there and showing up every day, being there for your team. And it's never failed me. So,
I think that consistency is huge, right? And
Yes.
not expecting everything to happen all at once, but and try not to get
cumulative
frustrated,
effort.
right? Yeah. Speaking of consistency, we were just talking about before. You're, I think you both are big runners, right? So
Yes.
I'm blown away by the consistency that you've had with running. Can you tell? Like, did I hear correctly?
Yeah, so
950.
yeah, something like that. 950 days of running in a row. Not today yet.
Yeah.
Will happen today.
900 and at a minimum of
2 miles at
2
least.
miles.
Yes.
That's
him.
amazing.
I mean, I know you're a runner. I mean, that's
It's awesome.
That's
I love
amazing.
streaks. I'm a
Yeah.
big runner. I run a lot of miles, but I take off days. So
Yeah,
Probably medically, that's the advice
Is there
to
a
get.
target?
Isn't it a target?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it'll feel
just-
good at 1,000, and
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do.
I think that's you're playing out this like consistency and showing
Yeah.
up every day and doing that, and like that I think is, and I'm sure that also translates to
and
what
it,
you do, i.e.
forces you also to disconnect for that short amount of time,
Right.
Which is nice.
Yeah,
Run with your thoughts, literally.
yeah,
yeah, and one of my favorite quotes is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence isn't an event; it's a habit." Right, and so so many people want to start running, and they just run a bunch and then get injured and then quit forever. Right.
With running, I always say that the hardest part is the first step.
Yes.
Every time. Once that first step is done, you're good. You're golden.
Yep. And then you just keep taking one step at a time. So like I said, I've run long distance. I've run 3 50-mile races, countless ultra marathons, marathons.
Amazing.
And I always get the question, well, how do you run 50 miles? And my retort is always, you take one step and then you repeat it 100,000 times. And if you can take 100,000 steps, that's about 50 miles. But it's just that discipline.
Yeah,
it's a
I
lot of
don't know if it's
steps,
that
right?
easy,
But
Tim.
if you are thinking about the 100,000th step or the 90,000th step on step one, you're never going to do it. Right. And so back to the consistency, running a business and showing up and providing your best effort. And it's all about controlling what you can control now, staying focused on the immediate, and just keep taking one step at a time. I've got some really funny stories. So the last 50 miler that I did, I completely was not in shape for it. And so the story is that there's a running circuit series of 50 milers up north of Pittsburgh called the Baker Trail Ultramarathons. And the Baker Trail is a 150-mile trail. And one year they do the north section, the next year they do the middle section, and the last year they do the southern section. And when you finish the 50 miles, they actually give you 1/3 of a medal. And it's a puzzle piece, and you have to do all three of the sections, and you get a medal, and it's the Baker Trail. So, and it goes through Cook Forest, so there's this cooking theme. So they will give you, if you complete all 3 sections, a rolling pin. It's a marble rolling pin to mount your 3 medals on, and then they give you little plaques of the time that the year that you ran and the time you completed that 50-mile segment. And so I had run the first 2 segments, and I was training for the 3rd segment, the 3rd year, and I got injured. I was trying to do too much at once. That's another life lesson. Don't try to do too much at once. And I was trying to run fast and qualify for Boston and run a 50-miler. Those 2 things were opposite goals, and it didn't work out well for me. I was running the Buffalo Marathon, got completely injured. Anyway, that set me back 3 years. Well, 3 years down the road, when I went to go run this 3rd segment, I had become CEO. I was working a bazillion hours a week, traveling 80+% of the time, and just getting time in on my feet and running the miles became almost impossible. But I was bound and determined I was going to do this. And so I trained as much as I could. I signed up for the race. And one of the nice things about the Baker Trail is the last, I think the rule is 20-ish miles. You're allowed to have a pacer. You can have a friend run with you. And so
Josh, only the last 20 miles.
Only the last 20 miles,
yeah.
right?
Catch me on the last 2 miles.
Exactly.
I'll be good.
So anyway, long story short, I was running this. I got to mile 20, and I had a buddy of mine run the last 20 miles with me, and I start griping. All of the skin was worn off my feet. I literally had a blister on both feet from the balls of my feet all the way to the heel. My feet were torn up. I was sore. I was miserable. And I'm just bitching and bitching and bitching. And finally, my friend stopped me in my tracks, stopped in front of me, and he starts screaming at me, "Gosh darn it, Tannert." He's like, "You effing knew that you weren't in shape for this, and you knew this was going to effing hurt. Guess what? It's hurting. Shut up and effing run." And it kind of snapped me out of it, and just kind of got my head space in the right. And then it's just, again, one step at a time.
There you go.
Cross the finish line and go. So, a couple life lessons there. One, having someone alongside of you can be a big help, and especially snap you out of kind of your own internal focus and say, okay, I need to focus on the bigger picture here. So having that guide along the way, and then just the perseverance and grit to get it done. But
I've always said I didn't have I love the mentorship or like that person on your side, and I didn't have a lot of that growing up, and I felt like I had to figure a lot of things out myself, but I picked that up later in life, and I was like, man, I wish I would have had this
mentors
earlier.
are great,
right? Are there any of those, like, can you think of maybe mentors that you have now?
Yeah, I had when I joined the IE that was run by Ann Dugan. It was the IE's founder, and she's a great visionary. We didn't get along every day, but with great relationship, and she's on my board now, but great mentor. Also, you get mentors in unexpected places. We had a lady who worked at Pitt, Kathy Humphrey, who's now president of a university here in Pittsburgh, but she was a great mentor and gave great advice to me along the way. And I wasn't expecting to have her as a mentor, but that's just the way life works out sometimes.
Do you mentor, or is that something that you would engage in the future?
Yeah, definitely.
Or,
Definitely. I think
What's that
I just
experience like
signed
for you?
up for mentoring a Pitt athlete. So
Okay.
So I think that will happen at some point.
Yeah.
that's cool.
It's exciting. I try to mentor my children.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that.
Sometimes they're friends.
Yeah.
And try to give some of that knowledge away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's for me. Maybe I'm trying to do it for my kids as well, and it's we were just talking about that kind of before we started, and it's it's a difficult thing to navigate sometimes, but and also for me, like I said, not having it, I think maybe that's why I feel like I want to pass it along, but I also, now that I guess I'm getting older. I'm like, I'm not old enough to be a mentor. Like, what am I going to do? But there's this transition that happens where I guess it kind of naturally starts to happen. And, I look forward to doing that more often in the future. I know that's, how does that incorporate into your life for you? You kind of do it through, you kind of do it through your job a little bit. I feel like
through my job, I do it a lot through executive coaching, through, being an EOS implementer. I definitely get to help people. But also, I'm a Boy Scout leader. I'm an assistant scout master in my son's Boy Scout troop. And scouting is such an amazing way to mentor young men and now young women through a lot of challenges in growing and developing and experiencing new things and working through that. It's such a powerful organization, something I really enjoy. And so I've recently had the opportunity to be the speaker at the last 3 Eagle ceremonies in northern Pittsburgh, and to be able to see these young men that started in the troop and are now accomplishing a huge goal that's going to help them navigate their life and learn servant leadership and coaching, and it's been a lot of fun. And so, just one small example of that, the scouts cook for themselves and each other. The adults don't cook in our campouts. They cook for us. The kids cook for us. And so you get these kids that are in middle of their 5th grade year, beginning of their 6th grade year, coming into Boy Scouts, and they've never cooked, most of them, before. And so the older kids have to teach the kids how to cook. And if you burn breakfast, guess what? We eat burnt breakfast. It is what it is. And now to see those same kids that we're learning now coaching and teaching the others has been a really rewarding experience. So something I love.
Yeah, I hope to get involved in that at some point. Do you see this in IE? I know through kind of the forums, there may be some of this happening.
We have a class called our Entrepreneurial Fellows class, and each person in the class is matched with a mentor.
Okay.
Which is really nice, and that's a great part of the value of that program.
What's the name of that?
Entrepreneurial Fellows class.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a year-long certificate program that teaches either business owners or their family members or their senior managers how to take the business to the next level. It's one class per month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the mentorship piece of that is
it's so once they in the class, they fill out like a profile of what they would like in a mentor, a little bit about themselves, and then we work with our network to find somebody.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Any stories that you could share? Obviously de-identified, but of just some of the transformations that have occurred through having.
There's always great stories. I mean, I could write a whole book of anonymous stories, especially with the family businesses. I'm surprised, it's surprising, but it's also not surprising how much people fight over money.
Yeah. Right.
I had one very respectable family business, and I was sitting with the founder, and he was excited to show me his organizational chart. He's the chairman of the board now, and each part showed his the amount of ownership they had and how many the percent of voting rights that they had. And I said, well, that's interesting. Your sons don't have any. They have all the ownership but no voting rights.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll give them the voting rights when they either I die or they get along. I'm not sure which will happen first. So the fighting in family businesses does exist, and they should.
There's a lot of that in Pittsburgh.
There's a lot of family businesses in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Some families get along perfectly. Some they definitely don't.
Yeah. I think it's probably more prevalent in family business than not.
Definitely in family business. Right? Yeah, because blood is very thick.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think the root cause of some of that conflict is? Is it accountability?
Well, in a regular business that has non-family members, it's all laid out. The governance is all laid out most of the time. The ownership is clear. So, for example, another unnamed family business, and they transferred owners to a certain set of siblings, 40 years ago, and in that 40-year time frame, the business has succeeded wonderfully. Now, the other siblings who sold or didn't want their shares 40 years ago want the value that it is today, but they didn't work in the family business. So I think
it's complicated, right?
Very
I don't know
complicated.
It would be nice if there was here, everybody use this template, right?
Yes.
It doesn't work that way.
I would say communication and that and shared expectations of what it means to be. Some businesses who've publicly spoke about their family governance, or like Sheets or Eaton Park, where you have to either, there's some requirements, there's some structure that you have to get a degree, you have to work somewhere else before you enter the family business, and you have to or you have to rotate in a certain number of positions. So there's best practices to ensure those disaster stories, which I mentioned, don't happen.
Yeah, I love that. I think expectations are huge, and as it gets second, third, fourth generation, you bring in more people.
Right.
And
sometimes it goes to the spouses. Sometimes the spouses are allowed in. Sometimes they aren't. Things like that.
Yeah, and like you said, some people are working in the business, other people aren't. And like, what's the difference? And I've even experienced this too, where it's like you have the ownership box, as you call it, and then you have your actual, the box for your position, and you really have to distinguish between the two, right? So you could be in a family business an owner without having a position, and the expectations for that position should really be based on like what the replacement value is for that position, and that might be different for different skill sets within the family. And having that, there's other family businesses that I've been a part of, understanding how it works, and some are like everybody is paid the same regardless of kind of performance, and that has its its pros and cons.
Has its issues too.
Yeah. I love that about Pittsburgh and some other areas that I've lived in my life. There you don't have as much of the family business. It's definitely prevalent here in Pittsburgh.
Definitely.
So you get to see that kind of play out, and I love that. And especially as I'm building my company and thinking about generational stuff, like how I tee that stuff up is going to be important. And it's we talked about it earlier with being proactive and having some thoughts and strategy around that until and not wait till the last minute. But
it kind of gets back to the root of the hardest thing in business is the people issues.
Yeah.
And when you're related to the people issues, it adds another layer of complexity. So the clear expectations, clear transparency are critical to being able to navigate that. And some of the businesses that I've seen that have had the rule that family members have to be in a bunch of seats across the business. Like my dad had a family business, and I started by cleaning the bathrooms and taking out the trash, and working your way up, I think, is a really good step to that as well, giving people perspective of all of the various roles and just how this business actually operates.
I know one of the other things you do with IE is you plan events throughout the year.
Yes.
So we've got to work together on this. I was learning officer with YPO, so we did some joint events together. And I know what it's, I kind of know what it's like to do that. And you do that, for at least for us, we get to do it for a year, and then we then we let somebody else take over. You're doing that every year. Maybe just talk about that experience and maybe some challenges with that, because I know it can be chaos sometimes, right?
So, it's across. Finding a good speaker is you have to have three points. You have to be interesting. They have to be available, and they have to be affordable. Yeah. If one of those threes are out of it, then they're not a good speaker.
Yeah.
And so, working with YPO, one of our partner organizations, we just picked one from this year. For this year, I just mentioned is one of the leaders in Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a program, How to Be a Fan. So great speaker.
Available, interesting, and
affordable.
Yeah.
I had to beg a little bit. Sometimes I have to beg. I'm not afraid to beg. But it's really nice to be able to experience all these wonderful thought leaders from all across the country and bring them here to Pittsburgh to bring, the best professional development you can to these leaders. It's unbelievable.
So what's a crazy story around an event? Because I know it's something canceled at the last day or whatever. What's the craziest kind of experience?
With the IE event, we've had someone got COVID. So we had a couple of years ago, and we had to do it. They had to do it virtually, but we still had the venue and the food. We just did it virtually. Yeah. During COVID, people thought I was absolutely insane because, I represent business owners, and the business owners are at their business. So we couldn't hide from them. We had to be out and about, regardless of what your views on COVID. The business owners were at business. So I wanted to have events when no one was having events.
Yeah.
So the first couple, we had to have them outside in Washington County because they had different rules down there. So we had events outside, and September in Pittsburgh is pretty nice.
Yeah.
We had the coldest September morning, and it was an outside event,
Yeah.
and everybody was frozen. But we had an awesome speaker, and everybody still had a good
But they
time.
were still out of the house, and they
We're
probably
still out of the house,
Yeah,
and
right.
we were outside. But
Yeah.
and then the next when it was too cold, we had to move into the David L. Lawrence Convention Center. So we had this huge space,
Yeah, nobody's there.
a huge space where these
Take whatever
50,
you want.
50 people, and so that was a little crazy. But we were able to maintain our services and still do events when no one else in the city was
Yeah.
doing them. I think our chancellor himself had to sign the approval for those contracts.
Yeah. So how many events do you do a year?
IE almost does 100 events a year.
Wow.
It's all different types for all different sizes of business owners.
Yeah. What do you kind of talk through some of the challenges? What's the best event that you?
I mean,
can
one of the
remember?
most fulfilling is the State of the Economy,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you were recently at. The first time I did that was with Bill Demchak, and a CEO of PNC Bank, one of the nation's world's largest banks, and a oh shit moment. You're like, and you mentioned that oh shit moments in your career, and you're like, I'm sitting there with Bill Demchak, like reviewing our notes. I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have experiences like that, but to bring all of our leaders together to give an update on what's going on with our region is very important.
Yeah. I was
So
taking pictures of
this
the
year's was
screens
the
and-
11th. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really good. Any other events, highlights?
Just
that you
the speakers are awesome. We've had different family businesses and entrepreneurs speak. We had the guy Sam, who founded Dogfish Beer, speak, and then he eventually sold it to Boston Brewing or something for an obscene amount of money. We had the guy who the family business who founded Peeps. I think it's Rossborn Company, and the Fiesta Ware family. I like to collect business owners. I think business owners and entrepreneurs are the most interesting people. So I love meeting a new business owner and hearing about their business. Is the most interesting thing to me.
Yeah.
So having them come, those are real celebrities. I think
Right.
when running awesome businesses, which are fueling our economy. So the more of them that succeed, the better.
Yeah, I agree. We just did an event with Glenn Meekum too, which was like phenomenal to hear his story. And but another lesson learned in doing that is, the third part I think is affordable, right? And sometimes these speakers it's crazy how much they're charging for to come in. But I learned, and somebody told me this early on. It's like you want to find the resources who are badass that don't know they're badass, right?
Yeah.
It's like they maybe just wrote the book, but it hasn't come out, like it hasn't blown up yet, like it hasn't become
Some of
popular.
the badass
It's like,
people, even if they know that they're truly badass and they're running real businesses, they'll do it at no cost. Like
Right.
one of our speakers this year is Ed Stack, who's founder of Dick's
yeah.
Sporting Goods. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And I worked on that one for 4 years. And I tell you, the life is serendipitous. What finally did it was I saw him at Dick's. And I said, "Hey, Ed,
What's up? Yeah.
what's going on?" And he goes, "No one even asked me." And I'm like, and all these people came out of the eaves, and they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry, we're so sorry." And so it was scheduled right away. So and he's talking about his book in the game. So the entrepreneurs are the most awesome people, and I try to learn from them because they each have something different to share.
Yeah.
What comes to mind as far as a key learning from one of those speakers, or is there any that jumps out at you?
It's all across the board. But I do notice that the common thread with all entrepreneurs and business owners are high energy. Mm-hmm. They're always, and it is being persistent. It is showing up. It is putting forth your best effort. Being an entrepreneur and a business owner, there's a lot of risk. You're taking a lot of risks. Sometimes you're on the hook for large loans. I just noticed that the people, all high energy, there's a best practice. They're all putting forth their best effort every day. I've never really seen a lazy business owner because they can't afford to be.
Yeah, they don't exist.
They don't
They don't
exist.
exist. The company fails.
They self-select
quickly.
out.
Yeah,
Yes.
they probably happen, but just short term.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I can relate to that. I know it's sometimes hard to describe the risk too, and like to be able to understand what that feels like. It's like,
To a non-business owner, it is very hard for them to understand
yeah,
what you're actually, not only are, the organization and all the employees, you're worried about if your sales go down, would they be laid off, their well-being of their families. I mean, it's significant.
yeah. I think that's why it's important. For me, this is maybe YPO and some other places where you can actually open up about this. I think IE is another good example of where you have some forums where people can talk through at different leadership levels, like some of the things that are going on that you can't necessarily talk to either employees about or your family about, but it gives you.
They just don't understand.
Right. It's just, yeah.
They don't know what they don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. It's back to having that guide, that sounding board, person to yell at you when you need to be yelled at.
Yeah.
It's critical to success. And so as you,
Tim's yelled at me a few times.
yeah,
too. He's been,
it's kind of part of
Not for running the last 20 miles.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't answer
out
the
of
phone
love.
on
I
that
always
one.
yell
Yeah.
out of love.
Yeah.
But the reality is running and owning a business is this constant pendulum between pure euphoria and pure panic and terror. And it seems to go back and forth, right?
That's a
based
good way
off
to
of
put
the
it.
economy, based off of the various things. And so having that group to be able to guide you and be that sounding board, that mentorship, I think is critical to everyone's success. I say every CEO should have a peer group. I
Yeah.
truly
Like you
believe
said
it.
in the beginning, some things are the wind. You can't.
Right.
Yep.
You can't control it. Last year in my own business, I woke up to find out that the convention center was going to turn into a Hobby Lobby.
Oh,
So you have to really, you either, at the present time, you got to accept that. As crazy, as shocking as that is. And then how do you survive around that?
Right.
And thankfully that didn't end up happening. But
so you kept the convention center.
yeah, the
What
Monroe
was
bot
Plan
thing.
B?
Well, we can move into Pittsburgh or
Okay.
build a building or somewhere. I don't know. We were going through
Talk to Pitt.
Plan B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have to go back to this running thing for 540.
Yeah, almost
It's
four-
like-
yeah.
it's amazing. What's been the one day, or maybe I know you've probably had multiple, where you didn't think you were going to be able to make it happen, and how you were able to pull it off, or like the craziest thing that,
I
like we
mean-
said, we might go to a Steelers game and have a few beers.
Yeah,
What do we do?
exactly.
Like, we still got to run afterwards. That
Sometimes that the gym would be inaccessible to me. So in Pittsburgh, we've had some really cold days.
yeah.
And for whatever reason, I couldn't go to a treadmill. So I knew that I would have to do it outside, and running in sub-zero weather in the middle of the night on icy roads is a bit insane. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing it? But after 10 minutes or so, it's okay.
That's when you're actually looking at the 2 miles the
Yeah.
whole time.
I'm
right?
like,
You're
okay,
all right.
2 miles now,
But taking that first step, right?
It's the
Just
first step.
Take the first
People
step.
think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife doesn't.
There's got to be a bunch of those. Right?
Yeah,
It's not
there's
just
a bunch
one.
of those.
Yeah.
And my wife probably didn't believe that I was actually running for
Yeah.
half of those times. But
Well, what's funny is how I met Bob was through posting this crazy selfie of me running in Five Below,
with
and
ice off his face.
and my face was covered in ice. My eyelashes had icicles hanging off of them.
True.
And he commented on the Facebook post because
Yeah.
you could see North Park.
Yeah, I
I
said,
posted
"You
the
nut."
actual run. I
wrong
can't
with you?
remember. I ran 7 or 8 miles that day, and and posted the run.
Icicles don't form at 2 miles. That's only when you run
Yeah.
8 miles. that they
Exactly,
form.
exactly. You need to kind of get the distance in there. And so Bob reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're in Pittsburgh. I'm in Pittsburgh, and it's a very small world." So,
Man, I gotta get my act together. It's pretty amazing. I
Yeah.
think I love that. yeah, I'm only imagining all these different things that I did, even traveling and, just trying to, making this happen is pretty phenomenal. Yeah. Congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Talk about a testament to perseverance, grit, putting your best foot forward every single day.
I was in the Maldives last year, and the island is only like this big. And so I had to run around the island like 200 times to get the 2 miles.
That's what I'm imagining. Like at some point you got to run circles around a building or something. Like
I've run around a cruise ship over and over and over again. That gets pretty boring too.
Yeah. You just got to find a place.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So as, you think about the journey that you've had throughout your career thus far, if you were to have the ability to go back and give your younger self some sort of advice, what would that be? What's like the most meaningful advice that you've been able to embrace throughout your journey?
Yeah. I would say I would probably seek help from mentors earlier. Yeah. I probably didn't, because I didn't know what a mentor was.
Yeah, same.
So, I'd seek help from others rather than keeping it so close to the vest. Ask more questions earlier in your career. That's probably one of the things that would have been helpful. Some of the things I obviously did wrong because I obviously didn't know what I was doing could have been easily rectified by just asking a person.
Yeah. We learn from mistakes and lessons, but some of these are like avoidable, right?
Yes.
Like it would have been nice
Simple
to
things.
just get some really easy advice early on. I think that's why maybe I feel the same way. We want to pass that along to other people so they don't have to go through it. It's a little bit of I've said this before, the who not how to. If you've ever read, Who Not How, it's like, quit trying to, be the hero and do everything yourself. And sometimes it's just asking people for guidance, or maybe for them to do things that you're not good at or they're better at, right?
Yeah, work in your unique ability,
right?
Or you can stay focused there and get help outside of that. The better off you typically are. Yeah. And so, if one of our listeners wanted to get more information about your entrepreneurial programs, what would be the
easiest way is to go to entrepreneur.pitt.edu, and all our contact information is on there. Email any one of us and we'll definitely help you. Awesome. We're excited to learn about your business. So
yeah, I can attest to that. It's been phenomenal being part of IE. It's something we make sure we sign up for every year.
Thank you.
And we're using the forums as well, and it's been great. It's been great for us. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And your target market, you said, and business.
It could be a business of any size. We can help anybody
in any generation, early stage, late stage.
You own a business, or part of a business, or in a family business, contact us. We'll find a way to help you.
Awesome.
We'll surprise you.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Any more closing thoughts that you would love to share with our listeners?
I would just I would tell everybody, continue to support our region's small businesses, closely held businesses. Try not to. It's corporate is easy, but the real economy, the real employer in Western Pennsylvania are these family and closely held businesses. Buy some Mancini's bread, or go, instead of go shopping on Amazon, shop at a local toy store or something. That's where you can really make a difference and keep the dollars local.
Go to La Prima's at the Strip. They're one of my clients.
They're one of our members.
One of your members. Yeah. Great client.
Sam's a great guy.
Sam's amazing.
Mediterra.
Benner's in the South Hill. If you're looking for plants or landscaping.
It's great.
There's so many great organizations.
I love this. I love this. It's I live in Roslyn Farms, south of the city, and Carnegie's got a lot of these little small towns. So it's nice just on the weekends to go and support those. It really does, I think, make a difference. It's great.
Absolutely.
Nice, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for your time.
You should have brought La Prima coffee for us to drink here.
Absolutely.
Next time.
I have it in my session room, so that's what I serve.
With the cup, Sam would have appreciated that.
I do. I have Sam's fresh beans that are ground in my session room for all my clients. So proud to serve Pittsburgh's own La Prima Espresso Company coffee, and we'll give Sam another shout out here. He's a great guy, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing this. He's another great example of perseverance. He shared with me, he's like, Tim, before I started this company, I talked to 20 people about my business plan, and 19 of the 20 told me not to do it. And he said the only one that told me to go for it was my father. Wow. And he took his father's guidance and started this, and now he's been in business for 30 years. They've been a staple.
And he's always down in the store, and if you ask him about his coffee, he gets all excited and will tell you all about his beans and where they're all. So that's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
That's where the magic is in Pittsburgh.
I just got a new coffee bean grinder now.
There you go.
So I need to go get some beans. Yeah.
Can get them right there at the stores.
Done.
And so it's another example of someone that had a passion for something, set out a vision, and then just had grit and determination.
Didn't let a bunch of no's stop him.
Oh yeah, a lot of roadblocks, a lot of things you have to overcome. But he's been around for 30 years, and he's stronger now than he's ever been. And he has other expansion plans that he's executing on. So.
In the Post-Gazette this past weekend, 2 of our clients were featured: the Mancini family, who owns Mancini Bakery in McKees Rocks, and then Eric Sauereisen, who owns a company in RIDC. It's had its 125th year. So I would read about those businesses in the Post-Gazette, and there's some great family stories in there as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great having you. And looking forward to going on a run with you here sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.